You have seen it in places that do not seem to belong together. Above church altars, in Masonic art, printed on money, flashed in films, turned into a meme, argued over like it is a secret password to the modern world. The Eye of Providence. And here is what most people miss. Long before it became a pop culture all-seeing eye, it worked as a compact lesson about consciousness. About what watches, what is watched, and what changes when you remember there is a higher point of awareness inside you. By the end of this, you will recognize 3 layers at once. The public layer that teaches theology and ethics, the initiatic layer that builds discipline inside fraternities, and the operative layer, hermetic and magical, where the eye becomes a tool for attention and alignment. And there is a reason it is so often inside a triangle, with rays pouring outward. That detail is the key, and it only really clicks when you trace the symbol's life in order. Far back in time, we do not yet find providence as a word, but we do find the archetype, the divine eye. In Egypt, the Wedjat, the Eye of Horus, was not the same emblem you see today, yet it carried a related idea. Restoration, protection, the power that sees injury and makes it right. Across ancient cultures, eyes appear on amulets and ships because the eye is the simplest way to say, there is awareness here. You do not need a lecture to feel it. Something sees, something knows. We also find another ingredient long before the eye. Modern emblem, the sacred power of 3. Pagan cultures spoke in triads, 3-fold goddesses, triple fires, 3 fates, 3 realms, because 3 is the first number that makes a structure. 2 points give a line, but 3 points make a plane. 3 creates a stable shape. That is why triangles show up everywhere in sacred geometry. They imply foundation, form, manifestation. The Eye of Providence, as we recognize it, an eye enclosed in a triangle, radiating light, belongs to a later spiritual climate. It takes shape most clearly in Christian Europe as sacred art becomes visual theology. Providence is the idea that divinity not only created the world, but sustains it, orders it, guides it. The triangle, in that context, is shorthand for the Trinity, unity expressed as 3. The rays are the language of emanation, light going out, influence extending. In churches, that eye is less a threat than a reassurance. Reality is not abandoned, and the cosmos is held in intelligence. As the West moves into the early modern period, another current strengthens, the revival of Hermetic and Neoplatonic ideas, where symbols are not just signs, but forces that shape the soul. The mood is simple. The universe is patterned, and the human mind can learn to attune itself to that pattern. As above, so below, not as a slogan, but as a way of reading life. That is the bridge into the initiatic world, where the eye becomes more than church art. In Freemasonry, it is often called the all-seeing eye, linked to the great architect of the universe. In that setting, the symbol is not primarily about spying on you. It is about forming you. It trains an inner witness. Your actions matter, even when no one is watching. Albert Pike treats such emblems as moral and metaphysical lessons compressed into form. Manly P. Hall, surveying esoteric traditions, keeps returning to the same point. A single symbol can hold multiple meanings depending on the viewer's depth. This is also how fraternities benefit from it in a very practical sense. A shared symbol creates shared identity and continuity. Placed above a lodge room, it builds an atmosphere of accountability, less fear, more conscience. Some occultists call the accumulated charge of repeated attention an egregore. Literal or psychological, the effect is real. People focus differently when a room declares, silently, be awake. And notice how elegant the symbol is for that purpose. It does not demand a specific denomination. It points to oversight, order, and a higher standard without needing a long speech. Then the eye enters the modern arena of statecraft and mass culture. Seen above the unfinished pyramid on the Great Seal, later reproduced on currency, it becomes part of civic mythology, order, destiny, a project still under construction. The internet age often spins this into endless conspiracy debates. In my opinion, the more useful question is calmer. Why does this image reliably trigger the feeling that something bigger is going on? Because an eye plus a triangle plus rays is basically a machine for producing the sense of overarching order. Even if you ignore every rumor, the psychology still works. Your mind treats the image like a viewpoint from above. Quick question for you. Where did you first notice this symbol? In a church, a movie, on money, in a book, or online? Drop that in the comments, because the first place you met the eye usually determines which layer of meaning you attach to it. Now we reach the deepest layer, Hermetic Kabbalah and ceremonial magic. Here, the eye stops being only an emblem and becomes a map of consciousness. In the Hermetic Kabbalistic worldview, reality flows from subtle to dense through stages of emanation, often diagrammed as the tree of life. At the summit is Kether, the crown, not a thing so much as the principle of pure being, the first flash of existence. The supernal triad, Kether, Chokmah, Bina, forms the first triangle, the first stable structure in which unity can be perceived as pattern, being, force, form, seed, surge, vessel. If you are new to this, here is the translation. The triangle is the first way the one becomes knowable without ceasing to be one. So why an eye? Because an eye is the perfect symbol for awareness that does not need an object to exist. Before you think about anything, there is the fact that you are aware. That aware of being aware quality is what many mystical traditions point toward. In Hermetic terms, it is the witness at the crown of the mind. The rays become the descent of light, what Dion Fortune, writing for practical students, describes as force moving through levels of consciousness, changing frequency as it moves. Israel Regardi, who made Golden Dawn material accessible, keeps returning to a blunt truth. Ceremonial work trains the psyche as much as it seeks results. The eye, in that light, is not paranoia. It is alignment, letting the lower parts of the self organize around a higher center, so the personality stops fighting itself. And this is where the symbolism becomes testable. Experienced practitioners use the eye in at least 3 practical ways. First, as a temple icon, an anchor for attention. Placing the eye or a simple triangle of light in your ritual space cues your mind. You are entering a different mode. The mind follows images. That is why icons exist. Some magicians place it in the above position, over an altar, over a doorway, or in the east, not as superstition, but as a reminder that every operation needs a vertical axis, the human reaching upward, the higher influence descending. Second, as an ethical mirror. High magic collapses if your inner life is chaotic. The all-seeing aspect becomes a way to keep promises to yourself. A practitioner might glance at the symbol before speaking in a tense moment, using it as a cue to return to the witness and respond from the higher self instead of the reactive self. Another simple practice is journaling under that emblem, writing what you did today, what you avoided, what you know you need to repair, because the eye is, at this level, the discipline of honest self-observation. I think this is the most underrated use. The eye as daily practice, not a dramatic prop. Third, as a contemplative exercise, the single eye of attention. You can take a small drawing, place it at eye level, soften your gaze for a few minutes, and notice the act of seeing itself. Not what you see, seeing. Over time, this trains the same faculty ceremonial magicians rely on for stable visualization. When I understood this, the symbol flipped inside out. It stopped being something watching me and became the part of me that can watch myself. That shift is subtle, but it is the doorway to real inner change. Different streams interpret the eye in their own dialect. Eliphas Levi frames magic as directing imagination and will through symbol, and in that sense, the eye is a reminder of clarity and inner authority. Your vision must be clean, or your will becomes confused. In Thelema, Aleister Crowley emphasizes that symbols are engines that move the mind into specific configurations. You do not have to like Crowley to recognize the technique. In serious ceremonial practice, presence at the center is not optional. The eye points to that center. So what about the claim that secret societies use the eye to control the world? Here is the grounded version. Symbols influence people because attention influences people. But the most immediate control is internal. Who holds your attention? If you never cultivate the witness, you will be pulled by whatever shines brightest. The Eye of Providence, at its best, is an antidote to that sleepwalking. It says, wake up, see what you are doing. Remember the pattern. Let me ask you one more thing, and answer it honestly in the comments. After hearing all three layers, which meaning feels most real to you right now? Providence. As divine order, the eye as initiatic discipline, or the eye as a tool for training consciousness? Now we can close the circle. You have seen the eye in churches, on money, in secret society art, and across pop culture. At the surface, it can look like a warning. But traced through time, it reads like a teaching. First, the archetype of awareness, an ancient instinct that the sacred sees. Then, a Christian image of providence, a cosmos held in intelligence and light. Then, an initiatic emblem of accountability and inner witness. And finally, in the Hermetic and magical tradition, a practical reminder that the highest form of being watched is not fear, it is awakening. So the next time you encounter that eye, do not rush to panic, and do not rush to mock it either. Pause for half a second and test the oldest secret hidden in the simplest symbol. There is an awareness in you that can stand above the noise, see the whole, and choose. And if you can learn to live from that point, even a little, then the Eye of Providence stops being a rumor about the world and starts becoming a lamp inside your own.